Welcome to The Shield Within. The issues discussed on the Shield Within podcast do not reflect the opinions of any specific agency. They are the views of the host and the guest. Any persons discussed may be fictional for comedic purposes only. This podcast is rated explicit and listener discretion is advised. Listening to The Shield Within may trigger repressed or suppressed memories or experiences. Please contact a mental health professional at your earliest convenience. It's time for the chaos to cease.
Time to open yourself to peace.
From the hours you've put in.
To the next shift you begin.
From the endless pursuit of release.
That finds the worst unleashed.
Transform the ugly into a win.
Get to know your shield within.
Welcome to The Shield Within.
Good evening, Mark.
Good evening, everyone. We are exceptionally excited. It's fuck you, Donnie. We have our guest. We're in the second half. Here we're in the twofers again. So we have Vickie Martin with us. We're excited about that.
Thank you.
And Captain Fabulous has stopped in.
Thank you for
in between phone calls. He's decided to come in here and sit down with us.
Thank you for the invite.
You're so welcome. So let's do a little business. If you're on Facebook, and we all know you are, and you're still out there, go to Facebook / Shield Within. See our daily postings of our current episodes and others. A couple of other things to look at in some other podcasts I'm going to go ahead and plug right here is go over and see our friends at the Roll Call Room. Go over and see Nick and Mike and the Spinning Our Gears podcast. They're
very good.
They're having some fun. Really, they're just getting going too. There are a couple of officers, just not like us, not like me and Captain Fabulous maybe, but they're two guys. But give them a listen. They do a good job over there. So Spinning Our Gears podcast and the Roll Call Room. So speaking of the Roll Call Room, we have a show we've done together with them. It's called Off Duty on the Air. It's simulcast. So you can find it at the Roll Call Room podcast and the Shield Within. We have a whole new logo. It's all 5 of us to get 6 of us. Yes, I keep forgetting to count myself, but it's more fun. We agree with that. Did you listen to it, Greg?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I know our show is very, very specific, and this is what therapy's like, boys and girls. If you're going to come into therapy and you're thinking that, I'm going to be on the couch and they're going to be doing it, no, this is kind of what a therapy session's like, and just what my experience has been. It's open, it's fun. It can be fun. It can be super fucking heavy, right, David? But if you're needing help and you're wanting to find that first step, and you found yourself at this podcast, and you're like, now what the fuck do I do? Well, we have resources for you. You can go to lessonslearnedcoaching.com or go to our website, www.shieldwithin.com, hit the coaching button, or you can sit there and be amazed at all the pictures and say, I don't think Dr. David looked like that. Why does Donnie have his shirt off? That was actually Mr. Hat messing with him. But anyway, if you're in need, you can hit the message button there. That comes directly to me. If you're outside the Miami Valley area, David might be able to find something for you. So in the Miami Valley area, we have Vickie Martin with us, and we're super excited she's here. You can go to Facebook as well, and she's at Martin Counseling and Consultation. So Facebook / Martin Counseling and Consultation.
All righty. Hi again.
Hello.
So much more I want to explore. And Mark brought up 2 things in the break that I think are absolutely, if we have time, I'd love to address both of them. I'm thinking back where we left off. You're in treatment with a first responder. You're doing EMDR. You're doing a lot of different things with that person. Is there anything that you kind of monitor or keep track of as therapy proceeds? Like sometimes I know mood, work attendance, sleep, something that the first responder it concerns you, a pattern that concerns you that you kind of like to want to keep on top of as therapy proceeds? Does that ever happen?
Yeah. And again, I think, like I said in part one, my crisis background, I'm always on the lookout for safety concerns.
Yeah.
Because again, you guys have firearms. So that increases your risk of, being able to actually follow through with that.
Right.
The other thing I pay attention to is substance use. Because a lot of folks with trauma are abusing substances of some kind. And that adds to the risk that's involved with that person. So those are just a couple of things that I can think of.
Yeah, those are two big ones too, because both of those affect a lot of areas of life functioning. Okay, now I'm curious about kind of a different angle. You're working with the person, things are moving, you like how the whole thing's going. What's your experience going through the process with the person as they're going through their healing? What's your experience as being a part of that?
It's exciting.
It's exciting.
I like to help them maneuver through their journey. And that's like the word that pops in my head is just exciting. I think it can also be difficult. Even as a therapist, we have to be careful that we don't take that on.
Yes.
And so just kind of, helping them through their journey, guiding them, but also making sure that our tools are staying sharp.
Yes.
So that I can keep doing that.
Right. Self-care becomes such a big part of what we do. Just like we've been pushing so much for first responders. Self-love, self-care, self-awareness, all that stuff takes you someplace that's good. And for therapists too, man, there's a way. You just have to come up with a way or three that creates and keeps a boundary.
You only have 3?
Yeah, I know. Got a lot more than that. The 3 I can mention publicly.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
now I'm curious.
That's a different website.
Right, that's a different show.
So yeah, I think that's a requirement to me. That if you're not taking care of number one, then serving other people is impossible or is greatly diminished. I think you're kind of like fooling yourself if you're not taking care of yourself and you're thinking you're helping other people. It's probably not the case. I know this sounds weird, but like we've talked so much about how to start and what it's like in the middle. How do you know when you're done with a client?
Good question.
Or are you?
That's a great question too.
Yeah. For me, the way I do it is, it's client-led. So again, if they are to a point where they feel like things are going better, of course, I always like rating scales, if the activation level is down,
right,
and they can, experience the thoughts of the events without being totally derailed, that's progress.
Absolutely.
So, but again, then to answer what you said is, do you ever have to end?
Right.
Because, things are going to pop up when you least expect it, especially for people that are still active in their employment.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's not really a matter of ending. I think you can transition into some maintenance therapy. But yeah, I think it's, it's not about me, it's about them. So do they feel like they're ready? Let's get it done. Yeah. Even if I may think they're not ready.
Right.
We still kind of set things up to transition to, so if they don't feel like they need to come in, then at least these are your tools that you still have, and you've got my number.
Right. So. And I really like what you said earlier too about the not closing the case. I think that makes a huge difference. It's always an open door. And I think with first responders, it's critical. you can safely assume once you walk out of your completed psychotherapy that you're going to need more therapy because more shit is going to happen. And so there's almost, to me, almost like an assumption. Okay, we're done for this chapter.
Right.
But you know how to find me, and you know how to reach me, and I will be as responsive to you as I possibly can be. I cannot get you in tomorrow every day that you call me. I can't guarantee I can get you in the next day. But we'll talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we'll have some kind of therapeutic contact that will get you to the point where we can have a face-to-face and pick things up. And as we've emphasized real strongly for pretty much the whole time we've been doing this, is that, man, if you're going to start a career as a policeman or a fireman, paramedic, start with a therapist. Find one before the trauma starts, so you're comfortable with that person. You know the person's phone number, they recognize your face, you know their voice. You've run through this maybe a few times, and you find out that the department didn't find out anything. I like this. This is cool. So I feel confident in this. I can trust it. So when the shit does start to fly, I know who to call and where to go, and I know I'm going to be good with that. And I think there's a tremendous advantage. Yeah, you might, I mean, it's good to start off your career in good health, in good mental health, too. And that, to me, would include, if the department's not going to give you the names, here's some people you can talk to, then find your own person. Because the department's not there for you. They're there to make you there for them, period. So if you're going to take care of your own damn self, take care of your own damn self and find somebody who you can work with, so when the shit does fly, you can plug in. I think that's really smart.
Yeah. You know, I don't know if you call it my theme or my logo or whatever, is a lighthouse. And so if you're in my office, I've got lighthouse decor. It's on my sign. It's on my business cards, on my Facebook page. And, you know, the lighthouse, what it symbolizes is guiding people home when they get lost. And so, you know, it may be 6-8 months or a year since I've seen them. But if they need that kind of, you know, light shined again, you know, shined. I don't know if that's good grammar, but it's good enough.
It's the beacon.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, then I'm there.
Yeah. Very, very good. Awesome. Throughout the whole process, beginning to end, beginning to pause, what do you do with the family of the woman who's just gone through an incredible car wreck, has found a couple of people dead she had to deal with, and the families and the traffic and all that stuff? What do you recommend she does with her family? Do you like having her family come in with her, or at some point do you want that highway patrol lady to talk to her family or husband or whatever? What do you do with all that stuff?
You know, it definitely impacts the family, but not everybody wants their family involved. So if they want the family involved, then absolutely, let's sit down together and let's just kind of talk through how that stuff impacts them. If they don't, then sure, you know, I would encourage them to talk with their family themselves.
Okay.
But ultimately, I just kind of take their lead on that.
So if the first responder doesn't feel comfortable sharing that stuff with the family, whether it's the trauma stuff or the therapy stuff, that's okay. True?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's been my experience. Sometimes people are comfortable sharing parts of the story, or maybe, I mean, I had a first responder earlier this week that has decided to disclose a portion of what he has gone through, and being very careful. We've talked about this very specifically, that you make judgments about what you share and what you don't. And you don't want what you've gone through to add to the burden of the people that you love at home. At the same time, having them have some understanding of what you've gone through can be beneficial. I think so much of what a lot of family members have shared with me over the years is that, you know, like I had this paramedic a long time ago who had 2 daughters, really neat kids, loved them both. But they just didn't know what Dad went through. And so Dad would come home, and he worked nights, and he would come home at the point where they're going to school. And they could see it on him. And it was like, but I don't know what Dad went through. And then they would sit at school all day and try and, like, God, what did Dad have to do last night? What's he going to be like when I get home? What do I need to do for him? What's it going to do?
Or what did I do?
Yeah,
And I think that's the piece that,
Ding, ding,
you know,
ding.
when I am working with somebody that doesn't necessarily want their family to know everything,
Yeah.
I think it's important, though, to still have that conversation. And they may not know everything, but they know something.
yes,
And kids especially, I mean, even adults, but, you know, we kind of have this ability to make it about us. And so if Dad comes home from a really bad shift and can't deal with you,
Right.
you know, we want to make sure that the kids know it's not their fault.
Aces.
well, and that's where we as first responders need to reach out and recognize, you know, because again, well, why are we that way? Why are we so shut down? Because some dumb motherfucker early in your career, I'm sure, Cap, you had the same thing. Don't tell your family what you see out here. Don't share that with your wife. But and that's absolutely the worst thing in the world. You don't have to get gory graphic, but you know, if your kids are seeing you're acting different, hey honey, it's not you. Daddy just had a bad day at work. We'll talk when you get out of school, but don't think that, you know, I'm not mad at you. You haven't done anything wrong. It's just something I need to push through. Go.
Well, decompression time when you come
Oh
home.
yeah.
That's what it is. And I think it's a mutual understanding is when you do come home with that is just give me 30 minutes to unwind, go to my space, do whatever, and you have that understanding. And then once that time is, then you can start relaxing and, you know, putting your shield down, I guess, and then opening up to others and then continuing on, hopefully, with a normal life with your family and friends.
Exactly. Another thing that I've suggested to folks is that they do all that before they get home. Do your decompression in the car.
Absolutely. You hope.
Go on. You're done with your shift, including us mental health people. And get in your car. Know exactly what music you need to listen to for the next 15, 20 minutes as you're going home or sitting in the parking lot.
Little tool.
Yes.
yes.
You find something that just hammers it out of you. That's what I used to do. I would scream and yell and have something that just kicked my ass for 15, 20 minutes on the drive home. I don't have to be home in 30 minutes. I can be home in 40 and be 20% less jacked up. Then I'm going to spend another 10 minutes listening to music in the car. Or I listen to a podcast. Or I call somebody on the phone and say, oh my God, like somebody has nothing to do with mental health. Oh my God, you're not going to believe the shit that happened today, you know, and just, and let it pour out before I walk in the door. To have all that stuff out of me before I engage the people that I'm living with, man, big deal. And so if you could get in the house and you can get to your private space first and turn it up and do what you need to do and decompress and release and then go engage with your adolescent daughter, that's probably a really good idea.
Yeah, my car concerts are amazing. I don't know if they're amazing to the other people in the car with me, but
Car karaoke.
Very good. I love that. I love that.
So I got a quick question.
Go.
So I'm a toxic empathizer. I really have to put some distance between me and my junior coaching people. And basically, what I mean by that is just simply, hey, good morning. How are you? Or, hey, I'm checking on you today. And what Kelly she's kind of in our chat groups in the morning, no matter what time I get up, these poor fuckers get a text. So it's either 4:30 in the morning or whatever. Good morning. Mr. Hat's like, God damn, go to sleep. But, you know, she's expressed that it's kind of nice. I mean, can you?
Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
It's kind of like, hey, good
having
morning.
a community, having a place to belong.
Yeah. So, you know, a few of the people that I talk to, I tend to take on their energy to a toxic level. And one gentleman that I'm working with is going through a very similar what I went through, and I totally hook, line, sinker was in. And we were in Florida, and Susan looked at me and she says, yeah, I know this is the third time you've told me this. And I'm like, okay, yeah, it's time to get some work done. So when I was home last, you know, I went to Dr. Hall and worked a little bit on, and we talked about toxic empathy. And my question to you two is there that situation or that client that when you're on the way home, you need to you need to just flush out the system? Ladies first.
I mean, you definitely have to flush it to a certain degree.
Okay.
Because again, you don't want to be less than for your own family.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because, you know, I don't want to traumatize them with the
Oh,
impact
yeah.
of the story that I just heard in my sessions.
Mm-hmm.
So for me personally, yeah, there's a flushing mechanism that happens, like I said, in those car concerts.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I don't know that I completely shut it out because I want to be able to go back to the next session, you know, and still be plugged in and still be present. And, but yeah, I think you definitely have to not take it all home.
Oh, yeah. How long's your car ride?
About 30 minutes.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. So, David.
I found that this is different with coaching, but when I was in my private practice, the thing that I had hardest time shaking at the end of the day was the client that I found irritating.
Oh, goodness.
I mean, the folks that would come in and land truth bombs in my office, like, here's my dad did this, my mom did this, I went through this. Okay, that shit I didn't take that shit home.
Mm-hmm.
But every once in a while, and this did not happen often, I would have somebody who just, it was work to be in the room with that person.
So, David, who did that person remind you of?
A part of me.
Touche.
Absolutely. And so,
Cap's going to have a bell here in a minute. Ding, ding.
so the irritation is what I would take home. And that's what I usually flushed out in my car concerts, was finding the right music that would pound that irritation out of me. Because I knew, like Vickie's saying, in 2 weeks, whatever, I'm going to have another session with that person.
Okay.
And I don't want to carry that irritation in. I want to be clean and fresh and open, fresh, for a fresh page. Let's see what happens here. And that only happens if I've processed that out.
Okay. So, my next question for both of you, have you ever had that client that I just can't fucking stand you? And number one. Number two, if you have had it, do you continue to see them, or do you suggest they find another therapist?
David first.
The first thing that comes to mind, well done. The first thing that comes to mind is my first job. I worked in a residential treatment center in Indiana for boys from all over the Midwest who were all really severe cases.
Mm-hmm.
And after I figured out how to be a therapist in the first few months there, it was like, man, I don't want to do this shit at all. So after 4 months, I was ready to go to law school. I had actually gotten the application and everything. But I did some work on myself that Christmas vacation, went back in January, and kind of figured some things out. But there was this one kid, man. Damn. His name was Mark. With a K.
Not me.
And he was a big kid. He was tall. He was lean. He was severely depressed. And working with him took so much energy out of me.
Oh, wow.
It was like I was exhausted after 15, 20 minutes with Mark in the office. And I had another 40 minutes to go. And I was constantly trying to generate content, engage, anything. And I just knew, this guy and I, it just isn't going to work. I can't find the ingredients of whatever it is I need to have to create an engagement that's therapeutic for this guy. And so one of the other therapists on staff, I just said, look, he's not like that hard, but I'm like, I got nothing for the guy. It's just, I feel like I have nothing in my deck of cards for this guy. And so his name was Steve. Steve took over the case, and he and I never talked about it. I have no idea what happened. I just knew he and I are not connecting, and the sense I got was I'm generating so much energy just to be with him.
Right.
I can't give him what he needs from me.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, we're human too.
Yeah.
And so things, including people, are going to trigger us at times. And I think for me, the ones that seem to trigger me the most are the ones that you work harder than them, you know, as the therapist. And,
Very good.
and so, yeah, I've had individuals that it was like at the end of the session, my energy was zapped. You know, not because I was doing EMDR work, but because I was just working the whole session
Right.
for nothing because, you know, they were those yes, but people.
Yeah. The
Yes, but,
my
you know.
goodness, yes.
And so, yeah, I mean, at some point, you know, I got to a place where I did kind of have that conversation. You know, I just don't feel like, you know, that I'm going to be of value to you. You know,
No, wait a
I'll
minute.
help you look at somebody else.
We had that session. But go ahead, Vickie. Sorry. ADD
No, I
moment.
mean, you know, and so then my job becomes, before I let my negativity mess with your treatment process,
Right.
that I need to help find somebody that just may have a different approach.
Yeah. Well, and it's I'm a law enforcement trainer. I didn't share that with you. So in we kind of do the same thing there. If I'm not connecting with you, and then like what I like to tell my students is we can talk, but we're not communicating. I can talk because I verbal diarrhea constantly, but if I'm not communicating with you, then I need to turn you over to another instructor. And I make it very clear that there's nothing wrong. You're not failing. Another instructor will be able to communicate with you and you'll get it. And so we're very student success oriented. So I think a lot of in this realm of what we're talking about is therapist client, if you're not clicking, then, you know, if they're not working with you, they may walk in David's office and instant connection and in the way we go.
Right.
And that's something I think that as the client, you need to look at that too. It's not that you're mad at them. It's this, you need to be open to the work. If you're going in there with a whole kit and caboodle full of excuses, and you two bitch slap me down if it's what you need, but if you're walking into therapy with excuses and you guys have a whole kit and caboodle of solutions, you need to look in the mirror a little harder. Because, you know, if you guys are working your ass off and I'm not, and I get very frustrated with colleagues that are that way. And it's just like,
Yeah. And sometimes the conversation is, are you really ready for therapy?
ding, ding, ding.
You know.
There you go. You hit the bullseye.
And if not, that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, but I think there's usually something behind the person with a lot of excuses.
Yeah.
And it could be
yeah,
they're just not ready.
Yeah. Or like David says, he told me so matter of fact that day, you're just not in enough pain. You get more pain, you'll get the work done. So if you just come up here and bitch at me for the next hour, then okay, we can do that too. So, and we did that for a while, didn't we?
There were occasions.
And
yes,
then, yeah, because I just needed,
to vent.
yeah, I needed a paid mud flap, and it was shit that I couldn't share at work, and it was shit I couldn't share at home, and so I guess it was therapeutic.
Absolutely.
But and then one day I woke up and I'm like, let's do EMDR, and I called David, and he went, "What? Yes!" And he's like, "Let's get to work." And I can tell you, there's life before EMDR. And life after is so much better. It's so much better. And EMDR is an ongoing process, boys and girls. So I'm sure these two therapists will be able to tell you that you're never done. And if you're still on the job, you should have that session planned out probably, what would you say, every 90 days? What would you recommend?
For like a maintenance session?
Yeah. Or sooner.
Depends on where you work.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's fair enough.
You know, I
So
think
I'm
every
working-
90 days would be a
I'm working
minimum.
West Pod at the city of Dayton.
Yeah.
I should probably
You
come
might
in-
want it sooner than that.
Yeah. You know, and I love that maintenance. You're going to come in for maintenance. You're going to go and get your oil change, guys. You know, you're going to go in. You're going to flush out that dirty oil. We're going to change your filter. We're going to fill you back up. You're going to come back in, right? And we're going to do this all over again because your traumas keep building up. See, I have suffered horribly from cumulative stress, and as I've said on the show several times, the thousands that we get done, and I'm due. That's why I was calling my therapist. I'm like, yeah, we need to do some EMDR because I got some shit I got to work on. But having that consciousness and knowing when your tank's getting full,
Right.
it's time to go get it dumped.
Right.
And get some work done. But maintenance, EMDR, and a lot of people, they don't want to go there to begin with. But I can tell you, after my first session, I went home and slept for like 12 hours. Susan's like, are you okay? I'm like, and it was just so much. And David said, it was just like, you watch the tension come out of my face. And it's a great process. Mm-hmm. So don't be afraid of it. Right. You've lived through it, whatever it was. You're fine. Mm-hmm. You got to get close to the flame. You'll feel the heat, but it's not going to burn you again. So it's okay to do it, but have that in mind when you're looking for a therapist. Find an EMDR therapist and plan on having that done regularly.
But also remember those tune-up sessions to where you can have your +1. So if you're doing a tune-up just for yourself, you might have a 2-for-1 special coming in that, not saying every 90 days, but bring your +1 because that might be better relationships down the road.
Right. Well, and sometimes your +1 can notice that you need a tune-up before you do.
Absolutely. Good point.
There you go.
So, yes.
Very, very good. I don't know how much time we have left, but do we have time to bring up one more thing?
Oh, yeah. We're only 30 minutes
cool.
in. We can go another 30, another 15. It's up to you.
Cool.
Or our guest.
We tackled something last week when we recorded our last 2 sessions, and that have not been released yet. So I'd like, so you haven't heard this stuff, but it was news to me when Beth from the Mental Health Board shared that she had been doing CEUs and did this 3-hour thing online on moral injury. So she shared this, and I was like, man, I'm not familiar with the term. And instantly, when I heard the term, my insides went, yeah, right, moral injury. Yeah. Well, I did a bunch of reading. Mark tapped on Molly Hall's door. She sent us all a really nice text on moral injury. And so I started doing a shit ton of reading on it. And found some really good source material. So we explored this last time for the 2 episodes prior to having you come in today. Has this crossed your radar at all? I just found it very distinctly different from PTSD, and yet the contexts that seem to generate moral injury are virtually the same. The examples given were like you're in combat and you're ordered to leave your position, leaving a wounded soldier that's going to die, and your morals are to stay with that person through their suffering, but you've been ordered to move your body to some other location. That injures you in a moral kind of way, and the treatment has ended up being kind of a mental health pastoral kind of combination. There's most of the, or at least some of the texts on treatment are a combination of a religious person and a mental health person together. So we explored this last time, all of us, and I found it really interesting, and it made me sit back and ask myself, I did clinical work for over 40 years. Did I ever suffer a moral injury? And I'm not sure I'm done answering that question yet. But it's been a real interesting thing to think about over the last couple of weeks. And then listen to the discussion that we had last time. Does this term, ring a bell for you? Are you familiar with it at all?
I've heard of it. I haven't really done any trainings on it.
Okay. None of us knew jack shit about it either. And we were all kind of like, I think we were all learning and discussing at the same time, not necessarily praying somebody would tell us what the hell it is and give us some specific guidance, but like, it's kind of a generic, ambiguous term to begin with, but when you start looking into it, it starts to make more and more sense. And that it would be a separate yet associated kind of experience to have as you go through a traumatic experience. You have that stuff hit your brain, in your body, and your whole life. But a moral thing seems to be less universal. So like the individual a first responder, for example, another example given, was a pediatric drowning. That your morals are to be with that, save that child's life. You have to save that child's life. It's a child. And there's a sense of desperation to the whole thing. But sometimes it can't happen. And so the person's morals are affected and injured, and that's where the harm comes. That just struck me as like, okay, that's something I think I neglected. It's not. I think, like Mark and I did this with all my trauma people and everybody in general, actually. But if you walked into my office, became my client, then we were going to talk about faith. Period. Now, if you tell me I'm not comfortable talking about that, that's my answer. We talked about it, and you told me you're not comfortable talking about it. That's all I need to know. But it becomes a resource. And so if your morals and you are really strongly connected, and you're put in a situation where you have to violate them, boom, it does something to you. And the presentation of guilt and shame is just so overwhelming. And I think that's something that, if I could restart the engine, I would go back with that awareness and look for it. Some of those folks who I kind of framed as having survivor guilt, probably a lot of them had moral injury, where something happened to their moral structure that was harmful to them. That's where I feel like that was really useful last week, and the reading into it was really useful, reading what Molly had to read. That's one element of first responder work that I feel like I neglected just by ignorance, and emphasizing faith I think is a big deal. But man, sometimes you're called upon to do stuff that just violates who you are.
Well, I can think of a client I worked with that was a veteran. And that fits him to a T, because the things that he had to do when he was in his active, duty time,
right,
when he's not, those things really were throwing him for a loop because of the things he had to do to survive, and it was the orders, but then when they weren't, those demons were coming back. And so that fits him really well.
Do you do EMDR with him? Do you approach that set of stuff, that kind of moral harm? Does it touch it?
It did with him.
Awesome.
This was somebody that had been in regular talk therapy for a while, and then got referred to me specifically.
Thank
you for the EMDR work. And so for him, part of his EMDR journey led to forgiveness of self.
Yes.
For the things that he had to do back then.
Right.
Yeah. That one's really tough. We all know I really struggled for years with self-forgiveness. You may not, but yeah, you do. You listen to the show. But yeah, that one's tough. Self-forgiveness, and I think David kind of wrapped it up for me a couple episodes ago, where you're like, you did it once, you've been punishing yourself now for 10 years. It's time to stop. But self-forgiveness, that's a powerful statement. The moral injury, especially me being a police officer, once you they talk about ethics in the police academy, and I always wanted to lecture on that. But and they'll tell you, you'll see the corruption. What are you going to do? And we've all been there. But that one's tough. I mean, I know going through my ordeal, I really channeled the scene from Braveheart where William Wallace is they're fighting the British again, and they got the clans, and all of a sudden all the clans abandon him, and he's out there just taking a pounding on the battlefield. That's how I felt. I felt abandoned because my people basically served me up, and that's my moral injury. How could you? We joked with Nick, and we were talking about, if you think your department's going to have your back, and we all started laughing, belly laughing. It's like, they don't. Me being bitter is yesterday's coffee. And in my situation, I don't think it's unique, but sadly, there's a lot of them, because that's why we have this show, is to where when they're done with you, they will throw you out like a piece of trash. And they did. Those 20 years I dedicated to that agency, it was like pulling your hand out of a bucket of water. It was like I was never there. They couldn't replace me quick enough. They couldn't get me out the door quick enough. And it's like, all this time I took away from my family, all this time I dedicated to the job, working 4 hours on Christmas Eve. Come on, man, I need somebody to come in and cover. Oh, sure, I'll do that. My wife was so pissed that year. But it didn't matter at the end of it. And I get resentful when I see these guys that retire, like my friend here to my left, and they have a ceremony, and they have these really nice personalized gifts, and they make, it's, hey, good job, man. You spent all these years here. We appreciate your work, and thank you. And, I got my stuff in a fucking evidence bag presented to me by the pain in the ass that I used to have to manage. It's a big fuck you from them to me, and I get it. Okay. Well played, assholes. But, and I have a podcast, and I'm going to tell the world about what a bunch of dickheads you are. But, not that I'm bitter. But that moral injury, that's something that's hard to get through. And I'm stinging right now with walking through that. Mm-hmm. But I think that, and as I read the article in Firehouses, that they both present similar as PTSD and moral injury, but they treat it differently. Am I correct there?
Generally speaking, that's what's evolving. Now, EMDR can be helpful for anything that's stuck, so it can be useful. But I think what I read in that, and then also the Scientific American article, is that what little research has been done, it's not very effective consistently. So there's other things that have been. I love this whole, as Vickie and I were talking, the whole idea of including like a pastor or a priest, whatever, as a part of the treatment process, so that the individual seeing a mental health and a pastor maybe not in the same session, but somewhat simultaneously, so that there's both things are being addressed. The mental health stuff, that's the guilt, the shame, the stuff that's kind of the fallout, but then the forgiveness part, sometimes you need somebody to have a pastor tell you that you're forgiven. I mean, this dweeb in an office.
It's the beauty of being Catholic.
There's somebody that does that.
That's right. Saturday nights at 4:30, St. Chris.
And I love that process. It's one of the many things about that religion that I like so much is there's an understanding. You're human. Your farts are going to smell.
I brought you a fresh bottle of it.
And so feel free to use that service.
Well, but that's the sacrament of the confession. It's that and a lot of people's like, oh, you Catholics. It's you go in, you tell the Father, and you tell him anything, because really they don't give a fuck. It's like me coming to therapy. Mm-hmm. I'm going to tell you the most bizarre fucking shit. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to walk out that door. That's why you and I can't see one another, because I actually give a fuck what you think now. Now, Vickie, look out.
Your feet just doubled.
Yeah, you're like, motherfucker, you're going up. But you got to have that relationship. Am I right or am I wrong?
Oh, absolutely.
I have to come in. I have to be open. I have to be raw, because if I find myself not, and that's kind of like with Jerry, my relationship with him. It's kind of evolving into that friendship side, so I'm not able to,
dump.
Flush the toilet, whatever you call it. But, I talk about going down and seeing Dr. Hall, and my analogy is my cards are in a fucking Ziploc bag, and I walk out and it's all nice and neat, because, as much as I respect her, we just go in, I just lay it out. And you know, one thing that fucking irritates the shit out of me, and I know you're listening, Susan, so take notes. Don't ask me about my therapy session. I mean, do you two agree with that? Well, how was your therapy session? It was good. What'd you talk about? It's none of your fucking business. I mean, I don't want to be that rude about it, but really, that's my time. But if it's a couples therapy session, I get it. We can reflect on the way home. But when I come into therapy, that's sacred time. It's like going to confession to me. It's that sacred time to, wipe the slate clean.
Well, a question for both of you is, for the listeners out there who's never gone to therapy, thinking about therapy with that, is making that first step into your office. Set the picture of walking into the office is, what's the environment like, what it is. I mean, some visualize that, lie down and tell me about it. what we see in pictures and movies and everything like that. So
right.
With your guys' offices is, how's it set up to make that connection, to continue on? What do you have in the room to open up, and for visual stimulants and also verbal and that calming with that? So Dr. Dave?
I love to hear Vickie's response to this. I had a couch in my office supplied by the people that I rented from, and a big ass desk and a desk chair and 2 other chairs in the room. Mm-hmm. And where the person sat, I didn't care. Mm-hmm. If they wanted to lie down, I had kids lay down. I had people at 4 o'clock on a Friday. Damn near all of them wanted to lay down. And I didn't blame them.
Yeah.
I had a dude come in. He was a hospital administrator up in Michigan, and he would leave and drive his ass down to my office to be there at 4 o'clock, and he was just, I haven't seen my wife and kids all week, and I'm going to talk to this asshole for the next hour. So, you need to lay down. You need to lay down. Do you need me to get you some water? I'll get you some water. But most of the time, Mark, other people pretty much would sit on somewhere on the couch. I would sit in my desk chair. I could roll around, get to my water, get my notes, my schedule, that kind of stuff. And it would be very much face-to-face. EMDR is done typically, historically, in what's called a ship's passing in the night position.
Okay.
Where I'm looking west and you're looking east, and we're right next to each other. And that way it facilitates me moving my hand in front of your face for the eye movement, or tapping, if I do the tapping, or if we have the hearing thing where you do the snapping with the ears, which I used to do a lot. Your body's right there. You're right there to then observe. To me, like Mark described, my God, watching somebody go through EMDR is stunning. Almost 100% of the time. The fluctuation in heart rate, respiration, facial color, facial expression, and if you watch all that stuff, and eye blinks, and just all these minimal cues that get generated, they're not aware that shit's going down.
No. But
it becomes critical that we're aware of what all that's going down.
Right.
So generally, there's this 3-4 foot space between the couch and the chair, and we talk. When we're doing EMDR, we're very close to each other, and we're in a place where we can see and observe and facilitate the process as much as possible. Yeah. Art, yes. My office was filled with art. Art I still have. Art I have up in my home now. In fact, I put 3 pieces of it, 2 that were in my office, 1 not, in my new bedroom. And I walk in there at bedtime, and I look at those 3 pieces of work, and I just this is where I belong. This is my home.
Yes.
Where, all that energy that was in that space, to me, is in those pictures. And so when I look at those pictures, it takes me into a whole long series of really good feelings. That art, they were my buddies. Those were my co-therapists. When a woman would come in who was a rape survivor and stand up from a very difficult period with me, a therapy session with me, and she'd look up and see one of those paintings, and I could tell that's connection.
Yes.
There's something
Yes.
happening there that's beneficial for her. Your turn.
That's good.
Well, I'm going to go back to something you said before, so your therapy session being your time. I would encourage those that are going to start looking, have that conversation with your plus one before you come in. And just kind of, that way you kind of already cover that.
Yes.
These are going to be my time. Because ultimately, I think the plus one is probably just concerned. They want you to get better. And so they want to know, how did it go?
Yes.
Are you better yet?
Yes.
So I would say have that conversation ahead of time as much as you can. So my office, where I'm at now, is I do have a couch. It's actually more like a love seat, so you're not going to be able to lay down very well. There's a chair, a desk, maybe a little bookshelf, a lamp. It's pretty simple. It's not real busy. When I do EMDR work, I want them to focus on me, or not even me, my finger kind of passing, versus a whole lot of stuff in the room. I have a lamp in there because some people can't handle the overhead lights.
Yes.
So that's their comfort level if they need me to kill the overhead lights and have the lamp on. But it's pretty simple. I've got some books. Every now and then I'll, somebody will be looking at my books and I'm like, which one looks interesting? Which one would you like to take home? But it's pretty simple. But I do think some people come in with this kind of preconceived idea of I'm going to lay on the couch and I've got my clipboard. I don't have a clipboard. So, but
And I think, Dr. Dave, you brought up good is about reading body languages. Same way within law enforcement, with that, talking with somebody or suspects, what's going to happen, watching the eyes, watching the face. How do I react to that?
Right.
And you bringing that up. And same with Vickie, is you're picking up on those nonverbal clues. With that, and then which way your roadmap is going to go with that person.
Right. That's the person is the person that the patient, quote unquote, is the person that drives the bus.
Yeah. What I tell people is, while we're doing the processing, I'm watching, because a lot of people get worried. I don't know if you had this. A lot of people were like, "Am I moving my eyes the right way?"
Yes.
It's because it doesn't feel like it feels weird.
Right.
Yeah. And so I always say, let me worry about that. You just focus on what you're focusing on. And you can tell, okay, we're going somewhere.
Yeah.
And I tell people, if you need to stop, just give me that signal. If I go to stop this round and you feel like you need to keep going because you're almost there, tell me that too. So it is a lot of observation, and kind of, we're guiding you to the next level. If you're ready to go there, we can, let's keep going. You're almost there, So it is paying attention to those cues for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. And being sensitive to the basic thing we're both very sensitive to with everybody. We're here to serve you. Period. You're not here in the room for us. We're here in the room for you.
Right. Absolutely.
And so it's your needs, your timing, your priorities. That's what we address. Yeah. Well, you'd like your future to be in the same field you're doing now. And if you're like I was when I was at the mental health center, the possibility that maybe more clients might be coming to you for your private practice is kind of exciting.
True? Sure.
Yeah, very good. So we would want to make sure that everybody listening knows how to reach Vickie Martin. She's in Troy. She's got evening hours, which is for a lot of folks I'm coaching a necessity. If you're working or going to school all day, your first time might be available is 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 8:30 at night. So those evening hours and those evening appointment opportunities to me are a really big deal. I want to give it a really little shout out while we've got a minute here.
Fire away.
We had an endorsement of sorts from the Ohio Small Police Department Association, which I didn't even know existed. And they put out something in their stuff pointing people to the shield within.
Wow.
And I thought, I don't know who y'all are,
Yeah.
but thank you big time.
Yes.
Because we are very much, all four of us sitting here, part of small towns. That's who
Yes.
we see. This is our community that we live in and belong to. When I saw that, it was just like, now these folks are our peeps.
Yeah.
These are our folks
Yeah.
that can
Good.
relate to everything that we're talking about in every aspect of it. So thank you to the Ohio Small Police Department Association. That was awesome that you shared that with us.
Well, in to wrap up this episode before Donnie keys the music, there's strength in numbers. And thank you again for listening to The Shield Within. We're trying to bring you guys good quality content, and it's to show you that, look, get to therapy. Unfuck yourself.
Yeah.
But for, those of us that, the other podcasts that when I go through and recognize stuff like Small Town Police Department, their Facebook page, Spinning Our Gears podcast, the Roll Call Room, we're all after the same thing.
Yeah.
Number one is we need to plummet police suicides. Get those down because there's more cops killing themselves every year. Double line of duty deaths.
Right.
And up until this weekend, there was more suicides than there was line of duties. I hope none of the cops ever do that again. I was an honor guard. Cap and I was an honor guard. We went to Washington, D.C. for many, many years for Police Week. And if you haven't gone, officers, get your ass down there. You can message me. It's real simple. We met a lot of great people down there, didn't we?
Absolutely, and grieving families.
Yeah, there's where you see the loss. We did the court online, which is where we stand there at attention as those families that had their officers on the wall that year. They all process in. That absolutely changes your DNA.
Yes, it does.
Midnight at the Wall, when they put the color back up, and they have a lone piper that pipes the memorial. That also changes your DNA. But get down to DC for that. We can talk about that later. But what we're trying to do, especially with the show, is to get those police suicides down. And we're not giving a lip service. We are here. We are active, and to stop this. And from someone that's had several attempts, which is who's talking right now, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and there's ways to fix it. But you have to be willing to make those hard decisions, and to get into therapy. And very thankful that you're here. Thank you once again.
I'm
for
glad to
coming
be
out.
here. Thank
We'd
you.
love to have you back sometime.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sounds good.
So
Now that I know how to talk in the microphone.
oh, Donnie will make you sound good. So if you want to get a hold of Vickie, Facebook /Martin. Say it again. Counseling
Martin.
and there we go. Counseling and consultation on Facebook, and you're in what city?
Troy.
Troy, Ohio. Yeah, very good.
Thank you much, Vickie.
All right.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you, Vickie.
Donnie, key the music.
May your days and nights find you strong and safe. May you take your place as your family's face. As you do the shit that we won't do. As you embrace the risk you must go through. May you grow in strength and heal and find your heart, your soul, and your mind. You look at your life and grin. You have a home, the shield within.